This might shock you, but did you know that before any Nike shoe is released into the market, it goes through more than a year of testing and modification? So no, these iconic sports shoes don't just randomly pop out on a shelf. And in this video, I'll be telling you about the rigorous process Nike passes through to make their shoes the best in the world. Every Nike shoe begins with a simple yet powerful question: what problem are we solving? But this isn't just a random exercise, it's the heart of Nike's innovation. Whether it's helping an athlete reduce their sprint time or creating streetwear that feels like walking on a cloud, it always starts with figuring out what people need. So yeah, Nike doesn't just make shoes, they solve problems you don't even know you had. And once the big question is clear, the real work begins. Designers come together in brainstorming sessions that can last for hours and sometimes days. Just picture a room filled with sketches, mood boards, and all sorts of random objects for inspiration. Seriously, Nike's creative team doesn't think small. They pull ideas from everywhere. Even nature is a huge inspiration. Did you know that some Nike cleats were designed to mimic the grip of a cheetah's paw? Crazy, right? And then there's the Air Max series, which got its signature look from the Centre Pompidou, a famous Paris building with exposed pipes and glass walls. I mean, who knew sneakers could have such fancy origins? But let's be clear, it's not just about making the shoes look cool. The designers work closely with athletes to understand what they really need. LeBron James, for example, has specific requirements for his basketball shoes. He needs support for explosive jumps, but also flexibility for quick cuts on the court. Serena Williams, she needs shoes that can keep up with her powerful serves and swift movements. So as you can see, these athletes don't just wear Nike shoes, they're part of the creation process. They test prototypes, give feedback, and push the designers to think bigger and better. Now here's where things get really exciting. Once the designers have their sketches and plans ready, Nike doesn't immediately jump to mass production. That would be way too risky. Instead, they create prototypes. Think of these as test versions of the shoe, like a rough draft before the final masterpiece. For Nike, it's all about turning a flat idea on paper into something you can actually touch, wear, and test. But you might think the company relies entirely on high-tech machines to make these prototypes, and yes, machines play a big role, but here's the thing, a lot of it is still done by hand. Yes, Nike has skilled craftsmen and women carefully cutting fabrics, sewing pieces together, and gluing soles just to create a single test shoe. It's like an art project, but on a whole different level. Each stitch, each curve, and each material placement is checked for precision. But this isn't something that happens overnight. Some prototypes take weeks to perfect. But making the prototype is just the beginning. The real fun starts during testing. Nike doesn't just look at the shoes and say, "Yep, looks good." These prototypes are put through some wild tests. Did you know that Nike uses a robotic foot running on a treadmill for hours that mimics the movement of a real runner? This helps the team see how the materials stretch, bend, and hold up under pressure. Some prototypes are even submerged in water or frozen in extreme cold to see how they perform in harsh conditions. And if they don't pass, back to the drawing board they go. Real athletes also get to try out the prototypes. They wear them during training, games, and even casual walks to provide feedback. Does the shoe feel too tight in the toe box? Is the cushioning supportive enough during a sprint? Every tiny detail matters. And by the time a prototype passes all these tests, it's basically the best version of itself. Now, Nike shoes don't just look good and feel good by accident. A lot of their magic comes from the materials they use, and trust me, they're not your average fabrics and rubbers. Nike is all about pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Take Flyknit, for example. It's one of their most famous innovations. Imagine wearing a shoe that feels like a sock, but is tough enough to run a marathon. That's Flyknit for you. What's even crazier? It took Nike 4 years to develop this material. Why? Because they didn't stop until it was just right. So what makes Flyknit so special? It's made from super strong, lightweight threads woven together to create a one-piece upper. This means fewer seams, which equals more comfort. It's also eco-friendly because it reduces material waste during production. That's a win for your feet and the planet. Now let's talk about Nike Air. Those little air pockets in the soles aren't just for show. They actually absorb impact and make each step feel lighter. But here's the wild part. The idea came from aerospace technology. Nike worked with engineers who designed spacesuits to create the first air units. It's like wearing a little piece of NASA on your feet. Over the years, Nike has made the Air units even better, making them bigger, bouncier, and more durable. And it doesn't stop there. Nike is constantly experimenting with new materials. Did you know that they've used recycled plastic bottles to make some of their shoes? How innovative is that? They've also developed Zoom X foam, which is super lightweight and gives runners extra energy with each step. Simply put, Nike's materials are as innovative as the designers themselves, and who knows what materials they'll experiment with next. Now let's talk tech, because Nike is seriously way ahead of the game here. They've embraced technology like no other company, and it's a big reason why their shoes are so innovative. Let's start with 3D printing. Nike uses this super cool tech to create prototypes faster than ever. Imagine being able to bring a design idea to life in just hours instead of weeks. That's what 3D printing does. It allows Nike's designers to test crazy ideas and tweak them on the go. So if a shoe looks good on paper but doesn't feel right on a foot, they can fix it right away without wasting time. But it doesn't stop there. Nike has taken things to the next level with its self-lacing shoes. Yep, just like in those futuristic movies, these shoes literally lace themselves up. They're called Nike Adapt, and they use tiny sensors and motors to automatically adjust the fit of your shoe. All you have to do is press a button or use an app on your phone, and boom, perfect fit every time. It's not just a cool party trick though. This technology is designed to help athletes perform better. Imagine playing basketball and having your shoes tighten up a little during a big game for extra support. That's the kind of thing Nike Adapt can do, and this is what makes them the best sports shoe company in the world. And let's not forget about their data-driven designs. Nike collects tons of information from athletes and everyday users to improve their shoes. From how a foot moves during a run to how a shoe handles wet conditions. All this data helps Nike create shoes that are not only stylish, but also super functional. As you can see so far, Nike isn't just making shoes, they're creating wearable tech that looks cool and makes life easier. Now, one thing you should absolutely know about Nike is that their shoes aren't just created and sold after a few tests. No, Nike makes sure their shoes go through some of the toughest tests imaginable. It's like these shoes have to graduate from a boot camp before they can land on store shelves. Of course, they do a lot of lab testing first. In these labs, Nike has machines that bend, twist, and pull the shoes to their absolute limit. And as I mentioned earlier, they even have robotic feet that run in the stores for hours at a time to check durability. But here's where it gets even more impressive. Lab tests aren't enough for Nike. Real athletes play a huge role in testing their shoes. Before a new running shoe is released, it's given to marathon runners to try out on different terrains. Basketball shoes? Those are tested on the court by pros and semi-pros to see how they hold up during quick turns and jumps. Even soccer cleats are tested in rain, mud, and scorching heat to make sure they perform no matter what. And don't think Nike only listens to the pros. Regular people like you and me are part of the testing process too. Nike often gives prototypes to everyday runners, gym goers, and even walkers to find out how the shoes feel in real life. If a shoe doesn't pass the test, it's back to the drawing board. Nike will change the materials, adjust the sole, or even redesign the entire thing until it meets their high standards. This repeated testing is a major reason why every pair of Nikes you see is so reliable. They've already been tested to handle just about anything life throws at them. Whether you're running a marathon or just walking your dog, you can trust your Nikes to have been through it all, and that's why you pay good money for them. Once the design, materials, and testing are done, you might think the shoe is ready to go. But no, Nike doesn't stop there. This is where the final magic happens, and believe me, it's all in the details. First, they decide on the colors. This might seem like a small thing, but it's actually a big deal. The right colorway can make a shoe a must-have. This is why Nike's team spends hours picking the perfect shades, sometimes even drawing inspiration from culture, music, or big events like the Olympics. Next comes the logo placement, and you may think adding the swoosh is easy, but it's a carefully thought-out process. Where the swoosh goes can change how a shoe looks entirely. Should it be bold and oversized, or small and subtle? These are the questions Nike's team has to answer. Then there's the name. Did you know that some of the most iconic names almost didn't happen? For example, Air Jordans were almost called something totally different, but Nike's team knew the Air part was perfect because of the air cushioning in the sole, and that small decision turned into a legendary brand of its own. Finally, the shoes are sent to factories for mass production. But even then, Nike doesn't relax. They have quality control teams to check every step of the manufacturing process. Every single shoe is inspected to make sure the stitching is perfect, the sole is secure, and the colors are consistent. When the shoes are finally ready, they're shipped to stores and online warehouses. So by the time you buy a pair, they've already been through a journey of creativity, multiple testing, and perfection. That's why Nike shoes feel so special. It's because they're not just made, they're crafted with care and attention to every little detail. So there you have it, the secret world behind your favorite Nike sneakers. From brainstorming wild ideas to testing them with robots and real athletes, every step is all about creating something amazing. That being said, what's your favorite Nike shoe? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about how things are made from start to finish, hit the subscribe button and we'll see you in the next video.